in Montana, on one of the political platforms, their goal is to make homosexuality illegal. Okay, that's a here and now event. Okay, that's a statement of a here and now group of people. Is there a historical lineage that these people find themselves in, that if they knew they were in that historical lineage, would they question their particular position? I don't know if they would or not. But however, we find in Uganda, there are attempts to make homosexuality illegal. There is a preacher in our country, Rick Warren, who's very influential in Africa. As a matter of fact, his book, Purpose-Driven Life, is becoming a national agenda for some of those countries. And his words were, homosexuality is a natural way of life, therefore it's not a human right, therefore I would think, well, even if you believe that, you'd leave that alone, therefore it's okay to make laws against it. Okay. The first laws we see against homosexuality were in 149 BC in the Roman Empire. Even further back than that, in 740 BCE, we see prejudice and persecution of homosexuality by King Josiah in the nation of Israel. So here's a historical lineage. We do not see the persecution of homosexuals under Solomon, David, or Saul, but we do see it at that particular point in history. Where do we find ourselves in our historical lineage? Where do you place yourself? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about, these are my beliefs, and I'm in the same group with these people, and with these people? When I first started thinking about this, it was when I was moving into the Unitarian Universalist community in about 1996, and for the life of me, and I've tried to find it, I discovered that Unitarian Universalism, to the best of my knowledge thus far, is a group of people that have not persecuted or put to death other people for not believing like them. I liked that. I like that. Now, maybe that's because we've never been in power and we've always been in minority and persecuted and haven't had the power to do it. I don't know. But I do like it. I do like it. And I certainly would say that our principles would reflect that. But again, when I looked at it from that position, our principles reflect this kind of boundary setting. It goes against marginalizing and persecution. Generally, when you have laws and boundary setting that are against marginalization and persecution, it comes from people who have been marginalized and who have been persecuted. Because they know what that means, and they know that there needs to be a safety boundary so that it doesn't happen to them or their children or their grandchildren. Can you imagine being persecuted, knowing that you're persecuted for who you are, and having children and knowing that's going to be their life and your grandchildren's lives? Right? Knowing, of course you're going to fight to create a space in which you can live and your children can live and your community can live without a sense of persecution. Being a people of story, we'll find something I think very peculiar in Channing's work. Because as we read about Channing, part of his work is to let go of old association, let go of old belief systems, so that we can experience a newness in life. To let go of that. But yet we're a people of story. Story gives us our identity, our sense of purpose, our sense of association. And yet when he talks about spirituality, he talks about letting those things go in a way, letting your story go so you can step outside of story so that you can build yourself again. Now, we find that way of thinking in the teachings of St. Paul, in the teachings of Jesus. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And if you are in the process of perpetually renewing your mind, you've got to be letting go of old beliefs because you're in the process of renewing beliefs. So we find Channing in that line of thought. We also find in a person who writes today about culture and the way of thinking, Julia Kristeva. She says that if we move into the direction of healing our inner woundedness, that is the only way to move into being socially active and creating a just social world. Channing, being a social activist and participating in creating a socially just world, also believed in this kind of transformation and inner healing. We fall back to what we've talked about several months ago about the atheist Slavoj Žižek defending the need for Christianity. And when he says that Christianity is the only real myth today that can actually subvert and fight against the tyranny of an economic order that does not consider all of its citizens. Because when you have the death of God, according to him, and of Christ on the cross, the only thing you're really promised is a spirit to come comfort you and lead you to truth. You're not promised a new story. But in that space of stepping out of story, you'll be able to see the world anew. And in that space of stepping out of story, you'll be able to create a society that's more just. So, and next week we'll get into that a bit more. But I was thinking about, well, why is that so? Why, if I put my story away, in a sense, suspend it, suspend my belief, suspend my story, why, if I do that and kind of exist in no story for a moment in time, try to suspend my beliefs and exist in no story and observe the world around me, why would it be that that is a process of creating a more just society? My conclusion is that in order to do that, in order to suspend your beliefs, in order to step in no story land, I guess, that's a story in itself, though. But anyway, in order to do that, I've got to reduce my anxiety. I've got to feel pretty secure about my sense of self. I've got to have a pretty strong sense of maybe ego or lack of ego. I'm not sure which one. And if I do that, when I'm still, I know that my empathy is stronger. I know that when I see suffering, I am moved to a greater detail. I know that when I remove the hypnotizing of our mass media, which really numbs us out, and I can, because that's part of our belief systems, if I'm participating in that, I'm participating in a story which this mass media numbs our sensibilities out. If I can suspend that too, and I can claim all of what it means to be human and activate and live with that sense of empathy, when I suspend that and I look around the world, the empathy is greater. And it is out of empathy that I begin to build my life and the culture and community that I live in. And how do we make empathy foundational, not only to our personal identities, not only to this community, empathy being a foundational value and experience in this community, how do we make empathy part of the governing and ruling processes of our country? Did somebody say good luck? Well, next week we're going to talk about Paul, Channing, and Kristeva. We'll increase good luck to with good effort, we will be able to do that. With consciousness, we will be able to do that. It is hard work to do this kind of spiritual growth. And that's the challenge we have today. And if I can say homework from the pulpit? No. But homework is to reflect on your values, your life, who you are as a person, and then look back the best you can through your history and through the nation's history. And which historical line of thought and historical line of experience do you find yourself in? And then, are you okay with that? Are you okay with that?